inspires me every single day to even think that this young woman is part of my life. And so I'd like to actually go bring her on the stage. But I want to remind everyone, share this right now. Share it immediately. And in your share, say, there's a 14-year-old girl that has started a business at the age of 12 that's speaking about leadership. Hanalei Swan, join us. Because this is going to be a moment that's going to change your life. Let's go get her. Where is she? Oh, she's in my gold room with my husband, Brian. Hanalei, it's my beautiful family. This is my unstoppable family. All right, so the whole family's here. You guys are obviously in my studio, in my room. So let's go, my dear. How are you?
Very good. How are you?
Dad, do you want to join us on the floor? Dad doesn't have a mic. He always wants to get into our action.
Right.
You can
Where do you want to sit?
You have fun.
This guy, Dad, we love our dad. You know, Hanalei, without Dad, I don't know. I don't know if we would have as much fun. I don't know if we would do as much crazy things. I don't know if we'd be able to practice our frustrations.
Definitely with a lot of, he creates the chaos that we ground. Like, we have to have a little bit of chaos around us so we can ground it.
Yeah, it's so true. Dad is the best. You know, and this is what's so cool about, you know, being part of this Woman Gone Wild. It's also about, you know, like this sacred union. Without our masculine, without our dad, you and I wouldn't be able to create our magic. Dad's a real true supporter in that, and that's what Women Gone Wild's about. And so the last 3 days have been pretty cool.
It's been amazing.
You've been watching?
I've been watching the entire time. I've been just rooting in the background.
Yeah. Who was one of your favorite thoughts or ideas that came from? Which was one of your the biggest moving moments?
I think yesterday with intuition, because one thing I've been really trying to focus on is working with my intuition or following it even more. I feel like from a young age, I've always really stuck with it, or I've, at least especially since I've grown up with you for the last 14 years of my life, known you all my life, I feel like I've learned from the best of the best, especially with trusting my intuition. You're welcome.
I didn't dare to say that.
And so I've learned that even from when I was younger, you would teach me lessons, just little things every day that have stuck with me. And things like always trusting yourself. And whenever we travel, for a little background on my life and how I've grown up with her for the last 14 years. And I have been raised on the road. I've been raised traveling, growing, and seeing life through a whole nother perspective, not reading the world through a textbook, but actually getting to see, feel, and visit these incredible places. And so when we made that moment and decided to travel the world and decided to let go of every single thing we had, leave the shame and ego behind. I want to ask you this, because this is, the story, I know people are going to ask this because you are, in the beginning, you were 6 months old when we left, or about a year actually, when we found out we were losing everything. When I say that, how did that even ring for you? Do you even remember? We were yard sailing. If we had a picture, we'd show you. Hanalei was 2 or 1, and there's a yard sale in front of our house. Yeah.
What do you? Because you don't remember it, but what do you think when we say that now, to where we are?
The thing is, it feels like my story. Our family. This is our story. This is how I was raised. Looking back at it, I don't really remember it, but I can kind of I can understand, or I can look back at a video that we had saved from when we were going on our first trip to Hawaii, and I can understand that, or I can kind of remember that. And I feel also with documentation of videos and social media, especially since we were kind of I was born into that and always having documentation around us.
It means to you when I say we lost everything, because I don't know that kids. I remember I judged my parents, Hanalei, Nana and Papa, or Ding Dong and Papa, it's my mom. I judged them because I thought, they didn't have time for me. And I created my own little story. But now as I'm older, I realize they just were really busy. They had other kids. They had 2 younger kids, and they did do their best. But do you have any type of judgment or thoughts on that? And how do you think kids do that to their parents?
One thing I've heard from other people is a lot of adults say oh, I hated my parents when I was younger, but now I finally understand what they were doing for me. It's because I feel the parents were hiding things from them.
That's it.
How I've grown up is I've understood when you guys are busy and I can't hang out with you, like, I understand that. And it's because you always told me what's going on in life. And growing up, everything was authentic truth and just straight up, you know? There was no, like, trying to hide something from me, for at least all I know. And just growing up, when you said, like, hey, we're going to be on a business call right now. If you want to swim in the pool, you can. We just won't be able to be here for a minute. Like, I understood that, because when you show up in truth and when you stand with just being straight up and authentic instead of trying to hide something, everyone, no matter how old you are, no matter where you're at in life, everyone can understand that, because they get the truth. They understand that. They feel that energy. You can't argue with truth.
Yeah, so let's talk about what happened for you. I mean, because people are like, what? She's 14, but you started your first company at 12, or you were 11 actually.
Yeah.
And then you launched your first book at 12. How did all this happen? Like, what happened? Let's go to that route.
It's crazy to think that I did all that, like, at 12. Like, it still kind of feels hard to believe. Like, I feel 14 right now, and I'm like, yeah, I just created, like, a clothing brand a few years ago. I haven't really done much with it since then, but it's like, I actually did those things. And it's really crazy to think, like, how...
Moment?
Yeah, I remember the moment, how everything, like, came about, and, like, how, like, if I can pinpoint a single time where those ideas clicked in and I started taking action with the things I wanted to do in life. It was when I was around 7 years old. I remember on the beach, you came up to me and we actually filmed it.
Yeah, do you remember where we were?
Yeah. Wait, where were we?
We were in Costa Rica.
Costa Rica,
we were living in Panama, and we had taken a boat over to Costa Rica, like, for the weekend, just to get away from our other island that we lived on. What was it?
Visa run.
Yeah, we had to do a visa run.
Yeah.
That's a part of our life.
Yeah.
Well, that's another story. So yeah, let's talk about that, because I think people are really interested in understanding this, especially if you have kids.
Yeah. So, when I was 7, when we were on this visa run in Costa Rica, I remember my mom coming up to me with a camera and she said, "Hanalei, what do you want to be now? What do you want to do now?" And so it was like this little question that almost came out of the blue, but for weeks on end, it was kind of coming up, and it just people, like you were saying, like, Hanalei, if you could do something, like, me and Dad have a business, if you wanted to do something like this, you know you can do that. And I remember every single time you brought this up, my eyes started to sparkle. I started to, like, get this energy within me. And when you asked that one question, because for years I was hearing, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to be when you're older? From family, friends, all these people, really as kids, conversations starters are, what do you want to be in the future?
Right.
And it's like, what are you doing in school? Like, I don't want to talk about school. I want to, like, talk about, like, cool things as a kid and what I love. And so when I got asked, what do I want to be now? It kind of changed my perspective to what I could truly do and be now. And it's funny to say that. I was only 7 years old and I was already thinking this. But with other kids, we all have that spark within us. We just have to have a flame to our lighter. We have to have something to bring that energy and bring that spark. When you start opening up kids and people to this question of what do you want to do, knowing and opening the opportunity of you can do anything at any age, it really just opens up a whole new world to possibilities.
Yeah.
And it doesn't limit ourselves. With a lot of society and how we are being brought up, we are closed in this box of, you have to go to school, you have to go to college, get married, get a job, be financially stable, and then when you're old enough to retire and you have enough money to retire, then you can finally do what you love. And so we are put into this box with society of the best stable way to grow up, and we are limiting ourselves from what our truest potential is. And when we open up ourselves to our truest potential at such a young age, that energy can thrive so much greater, so we can actually live a genuine life.
Yeah, why do you know this stuff? I'm like, who are you? But why do you think you know? Because I know everyone's like, wow, she speaks so well, she's been around this family, but like tap into why do you think you get this? Because I know that parents are going, oh, holy moly, my kid's not like that. He's picking his nose over here, right? Like, no judgment's picking your nose, like, you know. You know what I mean, though? But like,
Yeah.
why do you know this? What do you think is going on inside of you? Or like, where are you tapped in? Like, where is it the experiences you've had? Is it just like,
One thing I've always done, and one thing that I like, thank you very much, Mother. Like, growing up, I've been open to so many diverse groups of people,
Yeah.
so many areas. Like, I remember prominently, like, most of my life growing up was going to events, speaking on stages, seeing other speakers. And I remember I've always been like a super introverted kid. Like, I've kind of liked keeping to myself in the corner, but I've always been an eavesdropper where I listen into people's conversations and just learn from people's stories. Stories are the most interesting thing to me. And I remember I would have my sketchbook and like do these little doodles in the corner when you guys were speaking on stages, and I would just be listening to people and just hearing their perspective on life. And something that I was always open to was being told, always ask a question.
yeah.
Never silence yourself or never put yourself down, and always have yourself open to other people. And so with people with different beliefs or different ideas, all I would want to do is just ask them. And it wouldn't come from a place of hate or like, I don't agree with you. I just want to pick their brain. I want to understand how people think. And so when you open yourself up and don't put like a box around you, like, these are my only beliefs, this is only what I know. When you're open to learning, you can learn. And it's as funny as that.
Well, it is. You know, I mean, it's simple, and the fact that you get this, and I mean, there's adults, we've been peeling the layers to figure this out all of our life. But I want to go back, Hanalei, because this is going to be really cool. When we asked you, what do you want to be now? There's actually something that you asked, and we said, she just told us, like, always ask good questions. And this one question you asked us sparked into you building a whole sustainable company. And what was that one question?
Wait,
Can I borrow?
Can I borrow? I literally asked you, can I borrow $20?
Yeah, she's 11 years old.
One of the first things I said is, I'm like, I've been around a few entrepreneurs, and 7 years old.
Yeah, you're 7.
I'm like, I've been around a few entrepreneurs, a few startups that have gone good, and a few startups that have gone bad. One thing I know is there's got to be some investment at the start, and this is my brain at 7. It's like so funny to think. It was just the environment I grew up in.
Yeah, she grew up in an entrepreneur event.
And so that night I ordered thread, needles, fabric, and I started to make these little keychains, and I almost made like my mini startup, my mini campaign to go forward. And I remember going to your events whenever you would host them, because you've been doing these for years. I've been to every one of your events for 14 years. I know a thing or two about this thing. And so I remember I would go up to the clients that you had, and I would like give them a sales pitch on why they should have one of these keychains I made. And
what was your sales pitch? It was so good, though.
It was my 10-year-old
It
was my 10-year-old sales pitch. And so one thing that you've always taught me was always share your story. You're not selling a product, you're selling a story.
Yeah.
And people buy into stories. They don't buy into you, they buy into what you are. And so that was a huge thing for me. And so I remember going up to people and telling them my dream of wanting to become a fashion designer, my dream of wanting to become an artist. And I started telling them my visions and not selling the keychains. I, of course, told them they were good quality. Even though they were terribly stitched. I didn't know how to sew. But I told them the story. And that day, like over a few weeks, I made around $300 and enough money to be able to start my first like samples, to start my first pieces. And so that was a huge moment for me, and especially like growing up learning that your story and your message is the most important thing. The product comes last. What you are and how you like tell and how you speak, that's the most important thing. Because people want to buy from people. They don't want to buy from a product.
Well, spoken from one of the wisest women I've ever heard.
Yeah.
No, Hanalei, I love it. The audience is going completely nuts, so make sure you share this again, because Hanalei's going to answer some questions for you. I'm going to switch over to some questions in just a second, but I've got one more for you, because it does get asked all the time. It's like, you know, how is it for you being a kid? Like, you know, you're still a kid. You've already built an amazing company. You've been to London Fashion Week. You've spoken on stages in London, Paris. She's flown, business class to speak. And how is that confidence for you, how did you maintain the confidence for you? And, did anything happen to you in schools or in, with other kids that made you question yourself?
Totally. For a while, I have always wanted to go to school. No matter where I've been traveling to over 50 countries. Yeah. I've been traveling basically my entire life has been on the road, and that has been one of the most incredible blessings I've had. But I've always wanted to stay in school, and I remember a few years back, I was just starting my company, and I was just starting to do these things and like start talking and doing videos on social media and stuff and post that. And I remember my friends finding them, and I started getting bullied. I started getting made fun of, and a light inside me felt like it kind of cracked, because when I had my newfound friends that were like kind of the closest people in my life start to tell me what I was doing was weird, what I was doing was just bad in a way, or like they would just laugh at me. It was one of the most humility, I can't pronounce that word right now, but it was just a really bad situation, and I started to lose all my confidence. I started to push away everything that I wanted to do, because if I fit in, that was more important than standing out. Yeah. And when you're put in that mindset of being in a herd, the one who stands out is going to get attacked. And so I was that one. And so it took me years to kind of...
You didn't even tell Dad and I
didn't even say anything, because I didn't want to put the burden on you.
But think about how many kids do think that. But like someone's going, oh, she's so confident. But you were dealing with pretty deep bullying, and it was debilitating. You stopped doing video. You got uninspired, and we were like... I
didn't paint anymore.
You were stopped painting.
I had no energy to do anything, because in that situation, I only wanted to keep myself safe, Like, when I say safety, I mean, like, when you're in a herd and you're being out there, you're going to get attacked more often because you're more visible. And so I just wanted to blend in more. I wanted to kind of escape from that. Yeah. And so
be like everyone
else. And I didn't realize how harmful that was until I stepped out of it. You can only see the full picture when you take a step back. Yeah. And so, like, realizing now, like, I left that school, and I just didn't feel like I wanted to associate myself with any of those people anymore once I finally spoke out and was saying how I was feeling. And when you start to understand that what you were feeling was not normal, or you can be yourself, you can do whatever. That's why I love to preach, or at least talk about, like, always stay true to yourself and never let someone else dim your light, because I know the emotional, like, feedback that you get when you dim that light, when you start doing what you hate instead of what you love. It's soul crushing, and it's identity crushing, and you have to build that identity back up, or you have to, like, release yourself from any identities that anyone else puts onto you, and let yourself be yourself is the most important thing.
Hanalei, this is amazing, and we're going to take some questions now, but Hanalei's actually coming back as well, so we want to make sure that you are sharing this and letting everyone know, because we're going to take some questions from you right now in the audience, and then before we close out the day, Hanalei's coming back, and she's going to get deep. She's going to really get deep. All right, so, because she can. It's like, all of a sudden, channels start to come and lights start to go out, All right, so let me ask you. Candace is asking, I want to encourage my kids to be more like you. What do you think that your parents did right?
Don't encourage your kids to be like me. Encourage your kids to be like themselves.
Boom, that was a big mic drop. Wow.
Don't have your kids have any expectations on who they should be. Let them be themselves. Like, one thing I hear so much is people saying, I want my kids to be like you. I want others to be like you. Encourage them to be their authentic self. Have no pressures put onto them on who they should be. Because when we put pressures on how they should act, put expectations are soul crushing. I remember I would put expectations onto myself to be more like you, because I would see you as a powerhouse, and you were working every day, and you were making money, and I'm like, I'm just a 12-year-old kid, and I haven't even made 6 figures yet. I'm like, oh my God. I put my expectations of you onto me.
No, that's a beautiful answer.
If you want your kids to grow, if you want your kids to thrive and be more authentic, teach them to express themselves however they want to be, through artwork, through singing, through any way. tell them that there is no boundaries and no shame for who they want to be. And when you start opening that space of you can be by yourself and be the same person when you're around people, when you can be authentic either way and not have to put a mask over yourself, that is the most important thing.
That's a big answer. I mean, and I know that whoever, said that Candace didn't think like that way, but you know what I mean?
Totally.
But it's like, wow, because I remember, you think those things and that's all about being authentic. It's amazing. So this is Lo, and it could be your amazing mentor that we love dearly, Lo, asking this question. We love you, Lo, because she's here. How have you handled the non-traditional school? Because we did take Hanalei out of school like 4 years ago or something. After the bullying happened, we realized that wasn't actually her space. And she's asking, how does it work? I love how open-minded you are.
Yeah, so in the school system, I'm not really viewed as the smartest kid in the group. I kind of got held back a few grades, and just in academic ways of doing written math and how you had to like do this checklist of things, I was never really growing. And so when I came out of school, I felt like I started to thrive because I started learning the way I wanted to learn. And realizing that learning doesn't end at school, learning doesn't end at this structured class. We are constantly learning. And I remember hating learning when I was in school, and I remember my friends hating it. And when we start to hate learning, we stop growing. And that's what puts us into these boxes of we have to do this, we have to do that, we're just going to work a job because we're not growing and we're not thriving.
Yeah.
So I am a very creative mind, and I like to express myself through artwork, painting, anything that I can get my hands on, I want to make something out of. And so how I've learned is incorporating my artwork into how I grow. I've found my love for writing recently, and I'm writing my own book right now. I'm on like chapter 8 or something.
Does it have a title yet?
It doesn't have a title yet. So, yeah. But I didn't realize I loved writing until I started getting inspired by it in a creative way. Writing essays was the most boring thing to me. Writing summaries was terrible. But I didn't realize I was a good writer until I started doing it in a creative way. You were actually told you weren't,
right? You thought you were not.
Everyone told me I couldn't spell. Everyone told me I didn't know anything.
This is the garbage that takes place inside of these environments, right? Like, you're told something, you start to believe it. This is what happens to kids so often. So we've got one more question for you, Hanalei Yvonne, because I know you're coming back. This kid can talk all day. I'm seriously, you guys, open your books, because you're going to learn so much. I learn from this young woman every day. My husband and I are so grateful every day because we share this space and we listen to each other. So Yvonne wants to know, you've achieved things in business that many of us in our 40s and 50s still have not. What advice do you have for us?
I would say the best advice I could give is love what you do. Always put a priority on your happiness more than your business. Because I know it's a phrase that so many people have used, but when you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. Yeah. And of course there's going to be work and there's going to be hard times, but always putting a priority on, is this making me happy in the long term, is the most important thing. And always like creating shifts if you start to lose that happiness. If you start to lose that energy within you, learn a way or find techniques to regain that or shift it so you can find that happiness again. Like, I started losing a lot of my passion for fashion for a bit, and I started feeling this energy of, I don't want to do this anymore. And so I started to shift it and divide it into my artwork. And coming back again, I've found my passion for the artwork and fashion again, because I've learned to take a shift and take a break to find what I truly want to do.
Yeah, babe. I mean, it blows you away a bit, doesn't it? But we're gonna have you come back, okay? And we'll have you come back probably about an hour after we listen to a couple other speakers, because we want to now talk. There's some really deep questions that are coming in, like, do you think that you were different, as a kid? And, what are some things that you find that are hard to get through each day? And you've been doing so much on your Instagram, helping kids, young adults come through their life in a very specific way, and helping them embrace themselves. And who you are as a being is just so inspiring. So
I love you.
I love
You're
you.
my favorite. Oh my gosh.